Hi, everybody, and welcome again. Thank you so much for coming out for this talk. I appreciate y'all. So today we're going to be digging into, I guess, what it means to have either a gallery in the Caribbean context or to work with artists who are in and from the Caribbean context. I have great panelists with me, and basically we're just going to start by having each of them introduce themselves and then get a question. So it'll be, introducing Jodi. Jodi gets a question, and then so on. And then we'll have group questions. And after we're all done, we're going to have questions from the audience. So also, just to start, my name's Natalie Willis-Wiley. I am a writer and curator, and I currently work as the editor-at-large for the Caribbean for Burnaway, which is a contemporary art magazine based in the South. So yeah, we're going to start off with Jodi. So Jodi, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll give you a question.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jodi Minnis. I work as the Exhibitions and Programming Director of Turing Gallery. I am also a visual artist and a writer. And that's a little bit about me.
Jodi does all of the things, because I think the thing that's been coming out as well, like in these talks, is just the multi-hyphenate nature of being Caribbean or being any kind of, I think, anybody from the Black diaspora particularly in the arts. You kind of have to do a little bit of everything. So, Jodi, you're known for being a passionate cultural advocate and an instigator in the best of ways. So how does your experience as an artist living and working here in the Bahamas influence your role as a gallerist and curator? So I guess what I'm very interested in is essentially how your experience here informs your engagement with the artists represented by Turn, and how you try to kind of have as positive of an impact as possible in that space, given your own experience.
So, that's a good question. The way that I approach that is, one, by being honest about my needs as an artist. I think sometimes living in this context, you get comfortable with being innovative and resourceful. And then if you're working with a gallery entity, I think that's your time to be quite honest about your limitations, be quite honest about your goals, what informs your work, and what could better help to inform your work. And while being honest with myself about the needs of my own practice and kind of using that as a baseline, I have to also approach each artist from a equitable standpoint. So being attentive to their needs, because we work with artists who live in the region, but also artists who live in the diaspora. So someone who, you know, like April Bay lives in LA.
Very differing needs.
Yeah, April's coming with a whole other context than someone like Tessa Whitehead, who's working in Nassau. So one of the things that I have to consistently do is not approach every artist as though they work the same, not approach them like they are me, but also to use my experience and my knowledge as you know, forefront truth in conversations that I have with my colleagues when we're discussing artist needs.
Makes complete sense. Also, this is why I think a lot of the artists are quite happy with Turn, so this is a good thing. Thank you. All right, next I'm going to have you, Myrtis, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and I'm going to give you a question.
All right, great. Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining.
My name is Myrtis Bedolla. I am the owner and founding director of Gallery Myrtis, which is an emerging blue chip gallery located in Baltimore, Maryland. We specialize in the works of African and African diasporic artists. We exhibit nationally and internationally, and really happy to be here.
And we're glad to have you too. So in our conversation, because we had a series of one-on-ones before these talks, it was really clear to me that you just have this really genuine sense of stewardship and care for Black creative cultural work. So I just want you to share a little bit about how you balance, you know, the sort of logistics and needs for like sales with your commitment to actually advocating for the artist's truth and their narratives. Because essentially, like, I think from what I've gathered anyway, it feels like as much as you're, you know, a woman in business, you're also very much a caretaker for the artist that you're dealing with. So yeah, I just kind of wanted you to talk a little bit, I guess, about how you figure out that balance for yourself.
Yeah, well, stewardship is an important part of the work that I do. I serve as an art advisor and independent curator outside of the work or the exhibitions that I curate within the gallery space. I also curate exhibitions internationally. So with that, I feel like, you know, there is a greater sense of responsibility in understanding the artist's needs, and also for the collectors and the institutions that I work with, having them to have a profound understanding of the importance of the work, that it is a vessel for cultural truths and historical narratives. And so beyond the commodification of the artwork, it's important that it be understood for its historical and cultural significance.
Absolutely. I feel like it's particularly important because of the fact that like you also operate like from the States for the most part, and I feel like that representation and that space that you're giving and carving out is like really going to be very key to a lot of people. So I'm glad. Thank you. All right, so Lucia, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, so good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lucia Bordón. I am a professor of the arts department from the University of Havana, and I've been working at Bordón Studio for almost 8 years now, doing different things. I mean, I started very young, as the youngest of the house, and then I can say that I'm now the curator and business manager, finally.
I love it. I love it. So essentially, because you're operating from a place like Cuba, which is so often marginalized and kind of functions on a different cultural and economic kind of system, this, you know, presents unique challenges for you in your work as a gallery professional. And when we spoke, you were letting me know that essentially at Gallery Bordón, visitors get to come in and like see this space that's like a gallery space, but it's also attached to a home, which I think is like a really particular kind of experience, and it's very intimate. But when you were explaining to me, basically it was something that is born out of like necessity. So I want you to talk a little bit, I guess, about like how that sort of setup functions for you and how this is helping artists within Havana and within Cuba to kind of have space to navigate their practice. Just this model is like so different to what we have. I love that it's like literally like it's like intimate personal studios in your home space, but it's also like this inviting in. So I just want you to talk a little bit about that for me.
For sure. I mean, in Cuba it's been complicated to have your own space as an artist. So I was telling you that around 2015, around that time, the artists decided to be part of a very important event in Cuba, that is the Havana Biennial, that are actually coming now in November. So a lot of artists decided to take their houses and transform it into art space to not only to commercialize, but to show, to be part of the movement. So we wanted to jump in that experience too, and we turned our house into a gallery, but still having this feeling of home. So what we try to share with the people is exactly that, how the artists work on the same space that we are sitting, having a conversation, having a drink. So you can have like a deeper connection with the artist, and you like can understand what they are thinking, and what they are working on. So yeah, I mean, we can say it in a romantic way, but it all came from a necessity of being part of something bigger, of participating and being shown in the country. So there are state galleries, there are other private spaces, but it's been hard for artists to be shown. So
they're quite exclusive, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's exclusive, but at the same time, in Cuba there are so many artists from so many generations that it's never enough, all the spaces. So when you don't have like the opportunity, you create the opportunity for yourself, right? So that's what we did, basically.
I love it. I feel like it's just a really like kind of ingenious model, and it's just like finding a great workaround for something that could have been a big hindrance for a lot of people, and instead just become part of the actual art culture of the space that you're in. And there's something beautiful about that, very community, which I really like. So I'm now going to open up questions to all of you. Talk to me a little bit about what unique challenges contemporary art galleries face in the Caribbean regarding cultural perception and visibility. And Myrtis, I want you to speak to any challenges that you may have had in working with Caribbean artists or artists from the Black diaspora in terms of how other people are viewing them. So whoever wants to start, feel free.
I could go.
Yeah, be good.
So Turn has been around for about 4 years now.
It started in the pandemic, right?
It started in the pandemic in 2020. Our framework is to provide local exhibitions, so to have a robust exhibition schedule here in the Bahamas, but with artists from the Caribbean. So that poses the first unique challenge when you're trying to work with artists who are situated in the region. You have so much restrictions around shipping, and the cost of shipping has been one of the biggest prohibitors when it comes to who we collaborate with and the kind of ways that we'd have to work around those collaborations. And even when we decide to do international art fairs, shipping work out of the country as well, has also, it poses a challenge. So we say colloquially in the gallery that it's easier for people to travel than art. So we have to, be a little bit more strategic when it comes to that. Also, one of the issues that we find as well is that we are consistently competing against like big B brand Bahamas. So these like expectations of the Bahamas.
Specifically around tourism, right?
Yeah, as this like tourist destination that, people have these perceptions of it because they're introduced to it as a paradise. So when you're exhibiting critical artwork or artwork that does not refer directly back to specific ideologies of the Bahamas,
Paradise myth, picturesque.
It creates kind of a disjointedness. And then we also, I think one of the unique challenges that we have, especially myself as a curator, is to not always funnel the work through a specific Caribbean context if the work is not about that.
Right.
I think it's quite easy to funnel the work through kind of an identity politics when the artists are talking about so much more broad things.
That there's more to it than just that one identity reading of it, because I think that is a thing as well. And that kind of came up a little bit yesterday, where it's just like, you do kind of get a little bit pigeonholed, or people assume that the work has to be read in this particular way. And that's one reading, and that's important. But that's not the only thing that we're doing here.
Yeah, for sure. And then just having those conversations about artists, with artists as well, to consistently challenge them to expand, to experiment, while balancing the fact that this is a commercial space,
Right.
you know? So
And located next to a hotel, because Turn is like on
for
the
sure,
grounds
it's
of
on the
Island House.
Island House's property, which is a boutique hotel on the western end of the island, which also creates another unique challenge with having persons in Nassau specifically having to come to the gallery. So while there is a lot that we've done successfully and we've been able to work around it, we've been able to grow and place, you know, artist works in prominent collections locally and internationally. I think we could do so much more if we had a better, like, general understanding when it comes to, like, shipping companies, even like the government with duty and all of that. That shipping is literally
The thing that's
quite
killing
an
things.
essential part of what we do. And if we also could get tourism to kind of like change their marketing model a little bit,
It'd be nice to have a different
be a little bit
tune.
more expansive, so we
Yeah.
don't have to continuously fight against that. But
I know.
that's wishful thinking.
Is it? I feel like you're actively doing some of the work to undo that. You know what I mean? It's good. It's good. Just kind of like with things like this as well, I feel like it's not necessarily forcing people to have to contend with the Caribbean in a different way, but it's just like, if you're coming into a space like this, you do have to contend with the Caribbean in a different way, because it's not the pools that are over there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's,
so.
sorry, I feel like I'm taking up time, but
No, no,
it's
come on.
okay.
Be good, be good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, you know, that is one. What is the forefront image is just one image,
Right.
and then there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of more images of who we are, and if we could just have more space to show that on
Right.
bigger platforms like this, and so on, I think we would be. It would better aid the whole
Right.
creative cultural industry here.
Definitely agreed. Thank you, Jodi. All right. You want to go next?
Yeah, so I think that we share similar challenges and experiences.
Makes sense.
In my gallery, which is Gallery Myrtis, again located in Baltimore, I represent two Caribbean artists, both from Haiti, Morel Doucet and Fabiola Jean-Louis. Fabiola's work speaks to the absence of the black body in historical photography. Morel's work is primarily focused on the environment, environmental racism, displacement of black and brown bodies from their homelands. They each live in the US but were born in Haiti. So I think one of the challenges that I face is helping individuals, institutions, collectors understand that their narrative is part of a global conversation,
right.
and not so geographically specific,
It's not
and that
just
it
a
should
niche
be
thing, right?
understood in the, you know, the global understanding and the specifics of it are all tied to the human experience.
Absolutely.
And it's not a regional conversation, but a global conversation.
Absolutely.
So that's probably part, in addition to our transport,
Right.
you know,
Right.
fair participation, it's cultural understanding and education. That's been probably one of my biggest challenges.
Makes complete sense. I feel like there's just inherently, if you are working with artists from the Caribbean or the Black diaspora, there's just this level of emotional labor that you assume that you have to do when you're dealing with people, just because of kind of like Deborah was mentioning yesterday, the flattening of Caribbean experience, which I think also happens with Black experience in general, if that's not flattening it in itself. But like, you know, anyway, so thank you.
The context is much larger.
Absolutely. So much more nuance. And
Absolutely, it is.
I think people miss the richness by losing that as well. That's the thing. It's like the specificity of like people's experience is the thing that's actually really kind of incredible and beautiful. So it's just like losing that is doing a disservice to yourself as well as the artist.
Yeah,
You know?
always trying to go up. I feel, you know, battling that segregation
Yep.
and segmentation that continues to exist in the art market.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
for you?
I agree with you. Basically, I mean, in my school, in my faculty, there is a special subject for Caribbean art. And for me, it was very interesting, not only because my investigation theme is about Caribbean art, but also because we were like completely blank when we face that subject, you know, when we
Right.
face those studies. Because we have, I mean, you kind of know a little bit about European art, you know, Western art, but then when you face Caribbean art, everyone's like, these are gonna be only like, you know, seas,
Right.
coconuts, and that's it. I mean, from my experience, visited Bahamas before, and I was telling them like, no, it's not like that. Let's just, you know, keep rolling. And when we all discovered the potential of the Caribbean art, we were like, oh my God, this is much better than some other things we have seen. Not only because we connect with them, but we see the relations between, you know, let's say the traditional part of the arts, but also this contemporary feeling about it. So it's spectacular, and I think one of the challenges that we have all is the difficulties to connect to each other. So, and
Because I
think
feel like you're particularly isolated in a certain
Yes.
sense working from Cuba, which is hard because it's just like
yeah.
we're all part
I mean,
of the same
it's
space.
because of our context too.
Of course.
But in order, you know, to connect, to see what's going on in Bahamas, in Martinique, and Haiti, in Dominican Republic, in every single country, is difficult. So, and when you get it, like here, we are very, very, very excited because we get to see so much art, so many people from all over our area, and we can like, you know, like you almost like feel like family.
Right, I was
So
going to say
that's
community,
perfect.
connection.
Yes, yes.
I love it. Good. Thank you so much, y'all. All right, so let me see. I guess the next thing I want to ask is, what role do local communities play in shaping the programming and like the mission of your galleries, or just sort of how you operate in general? So, yeah, just that. Local community specifically, but also doesn't necessarily have to be. Maybe community looks a different way for you in your setup as well. You know what I mean? So, just that.
Yeah, well, for me, the relationship with the local community, is crucial because there needs to be, and for us, it's paramount that they understand that the work that is created and the artist's voice is somehow connected to them. If there's this great separation, then it will never be appreciated and fully embraced. So we, and when I say we, I'm talking about the gallery in our practice. We make a concerted effort to provide educational programming, and then we invite everyone in because there's this great reward in reaching someone who believed upon entering that work and that narrative was somehow not connected to them, and leave there with a greater understanding of, in fact, how it is. And then also reaching out to the Caribbean community in Baltimore and letting them know that this is a place for them to celebrate the resiliency and the resistance, then the history of their people, and also their culture, and then leave, you know, with that feeling of great pride and knowing that they are being heard and celebrated, I think is another important part of the gallery experience.
Absolutely. And it's like, I feel like, again, especially like within the context of working in the States, like making that safe space and that dedicated space for people to actually be able to feel like they can come in and like there's access to them, that's absolutely crucial. That's important. And also, I imagine this is also partly why I think this might be part of the success is like when you actually have that investment from local community, it helps people actually understand that the work that you're doing is legitimate and it's not performative, because I think that's a big thing that we struggle with like in art spaces in general, is feeling like, are they just acting like they care about people, or do they actually care about people? You know what I mean? Are you only doing it when it's loud, or are you doing it on like in the quiet and because it actually matters as well, you know?
Yeah, the gallery has a reputation of hosting exhibitions that are socially and politically driven. And the artists know that it's a safe space where their work will not be censored.
Right.
And we can deal with the difficult subjects when we need to, because
Absolutely.
we can be honest about the realities of one's history and what we have faced historically. So, and it's okay. And it's okay. We can challenge you to think differently within a space that allows for dissenting voices to be heard.
It's cultivating empathy in a really particular way. Thank you.
So, just a simple story. In our case, we managed like a community project. It was a gallery / community project. We live in a building, and there was a space downstairs, and we wanted to turn it into a place for arts. So we turned into Galleria Altamira. It was interesting because we shared the space with these local organizations that had nothing to do with art, but we were.
I love that.
Well, we were very excited because it was that was the moment when you are truly like facing the reality and you have to really like share the art with other areas of society. We made workshops with kids or with teenagers, with students. Also, that space was open for every young artist that was graduating or wanted to make an exhibition there. So it was a very nice experience. Then we closed that space because of the pandemic. We moved it to our house, to Bordón Studio. So now, for example, my parents are both professors of the National Academy of Arts there in Havana. So every class they have, they do it at the place. So
I love that.
the place is housed and then turns into a classroom where teenagers or young artists are showing their art, are showing their thesis program, everything together. So at the end, it's open for the art community, but in like local community, we've always been trying to connect with them and try to show them that art is not only what they see on the TV.
Right.
Because, for example, in Cuba, it's basically what people know about visual arts is on the TV, on the curtain of the bathroom, or anything related to merchandise. So when they see that art is something different than that, they are always amazed. And I think at some point they even like direct their kids, like, hey, let's take some workshops there at the gallery. So you can like expand your spectrum. So
I love this. It is like, it's kind of, again, expanding that kind of cultural understanding and letting people know that they have access to everything.
Exactly.
Which is unfortunately, one of the big prohibitors, I think, in art, because a lot of the most interesting artists, I think, that a lot of us, like, whose work like we love, they come from difficult circumstances. They come from essentially a circumstance where you would not have had easy, normal access to this, and usually it's because you get invited in by someone. There's almost always like a key, like, somebody who's, I don't know, maybe higher up in the art world or whatever, but it's just like, no, this is also for you, by the way. This isn't just trying to undo, I guess, some of the classist, prohibitive things that stop the people who are supposed to be making. So it just feels like, again, everybody's kind of tying into community in a really important way in terms of shifting culture, I think.
Yeah. At Turn, it's three of us who spearheaded the gallery, Lauren Perez and Amanda Colson and myself. Lauren comes from an art business background. She has like a background in art history, and she came up in London, in the London art scene. And then Amanda has like this long history through Volta Art Fair, through being the director of the National Gallery, and then myself being a visual artist and a curator over the years. So when we came together, the three of us saw the needs of our community from three different perspectives. Right. So Turn functions as almost like an answer to those needs, or we work to fill some of those gaps.
That is the vibe. That makes sense.
Yeah, and one of the strongest gaps that we filled is providing artists working in the region an opportunity to stay home and work. Right. So that they could remain a part of community, and for artists who, have a longing for home, they're able to re-enter into the community through our space. Right. So we have a long history here in the Bahamas with artists, working locally, showing abroad, and so on. So this is not a new concept, but the newness of the concept comes in having a gallery to actually manage your work. So you don't have multiple hats. You just get to focus on your artwork. And in a space where a lot of artists have to have, I think in most contexts, they have to have a day job or they have to, split.
Multi-hyphenate again?
Yeah, multi-hyphenated, split time. We're working, we're still just 4 years old, but we're working to ensure that they have an option because of the work that we're going to do. But also in the same vein, we're allowing younger artists the opportunity to engage with practices that they wouldn't get to locally. The first time I saw the work of Tavares Strawn, I had to go off to New York to go and see it. The first time I saw...
and that's the first Bahamian who went to Venice.
Right.
I mean, specifically
The
at a
Venice
pavilion.
Biennial.
Not went to Venice, but had
The
a
Venice
pavilion.
Biennial. I had to go, I saw LeVar Monroe's work, up close at the Central Bank in their collection, but the newness of the work, I had to go out and see it, And over time, yes, they came back home and they've exhibited, but other artists who are coming up through the same kind of channels as them have an avenue through Turn just to show their work locally, to have their work contextualized, to have access to just other kinds of programming and so on. So that's the kind of community that we're fostering, not just, building for, I think, and also, if it's okay to say, I think we're an artist for artists kind of gallery as well, where a lot of artists that we work with, their favorite artists come in and they get to meet them, they get to talk, and they geek out and they're like, oh, I saw your work on Instagram. So it's like the building of community through continuing these artists' connections and allowing them access in and access out.
And it really does feel like y'all are just merging three completely different sort of sets of communities into one space. And that's really, really important for, I think, the visibility of like a lot of artists, especially like having that kind of access to folks, like you're saying. It's really important. Thank you. So I guess the next question, that was looking kind of to local community. Now we're going to look outward a little bit. So in what ways do you think art fairs and international exhibitions contribute to the sustainability of not just galleries in the Caribbean, but galleries that are also dealing with people from the Black diaspora in general?
Well, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think back what I was saying, the importance of fairs or events in general is all the connections that you can make, and all the the show that you can create with the other artists. So in order to to play in the context or just to really be shown out of the Caribbean also is all these art fairs are important for that. For example, FUZE, again for us is a great opportunity to be shown, but also to see what's going on in the area and to realize if you are you are out of your bubble, so you can see actually what's going on in other places. If your thoughts are the same, being a Caribbean artist as other artists, so that's always necessary. And in a way that it presents them not only as this is the reflection of the Cuban identity or the Bahamian identity, that these are just Cuban artists that are showing their art and are really out of this plain expression of the Caribbean art. So,
thank you. Absolutely. I feel like again, it's just kind of tying into that the struggles that we have, I think, as a region, as a diaspora, around actually having spaces to convene, because the geography of the region is also prohibitive, just seems to be the word that keeps coming up, but it can be quite limiting for a lot of us. So again, having this space to convene together and actually share with each other in casual ways as well, not just the formality of I'm at an art fair and I'm presenting my work. It's just no, being able to literally run into someone else, have a chat, be oh, I follow you on Instagram or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just it gives a physical space for, I think, the connectivity that we tend to have, but it's more in the ether a little bit. So yeah, anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
And for you too.
Art fairs are, trying to answer this as honestly as possible.
Please do. Please do. You know,
I think at their core, they're commercial ventures.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just thinking about the experiences that we've had. It's the opportunity to get the work in the in the front of the eyes of people who wouldn't have seen it because they're just not traveling to the Bahamas to view artwork. And that culture is like changing, you know what I mean? And I've seen a change in real time where people are coming and looking, and there has been, this history of that. But to actually have your work, in the front of curators of prominent museums in the U.S., in those art hubs, to have collectors as well from all over the world in this like very compact jam space is quite helpful, because it's something to be here shouting out, and then it's something to be there shouting. And even though you're amongst maybe like 200 so galleries, we're usually one gallery from the Caribbean, or one of two galleries from the Caribbean. So that allows us a strategic position to have more visibility. Art fairs also allow us to just connect with artists who have been following our work, who live in the diaspora. And I think sometimes we underestimate how much of a Caribbean diaspora there is when it comes to the visual arts.
We as a region have when you think about places like Guyana, where over 35% of the population lives outside of Guyana.
Yeah.
It's just if a third of your population lives elsewhere, that doesn't mean they're not part of the region. It's just a very particular experience. There's a lot of us across the planet.
Yeah.
And we just kind of forget that because we always think that we're just a tiny pocket of the world. I think sometimes, I think that limiting thinking kind of gets to us as well, and we forget that it's kind of ingrained sometimes.
Yeah. So it truly does allow us to connect with persons from the region who are coming to the fairs. Also for artists to meet other galleries, to actually see their work outside of this context and to see how it plays in the diasporic art world, for us to expand on conversations and just bring what I'm thinking about now is just existing in of course, an island, you feel kind of siloed. You think you're the only person doing it. You think that these conversations are just what we're having. But then when you go out and you do these fairs, even locally here, you see, oh, this is a reoccurring conversation.
Right.
We are a part of the global art market and global conversations. This is not just a Caribbean problem. It's a human problem. And continuously having the opportunity to go out and come back in keeps us expanded in that way. And then through that expansion, we're able to just tackle issues in a better way and to exist in a confidence here in a different kind of way. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So that's the sustainable part. Art fairs are expensive, so that's the non-sustainable part, just to say.
I get it. And felt. Thank you.
Well, for Gallery Myrtis, the opportunity to participate in art fairs has been critical. It's allowed for greater visibility, market access, and also just networking opportunities, like meeting other gallerists, and again, admiring artists who I'm only followed on Instagram or was introduced, and then to be able to physically, stand before their work is very rewarding. So the fairs have allowed opportunities. I mean, my gallery has existed. We were celebrating our 20th year in 2026, but I've been in the business for over 30 years.
Incredible.
So in the last really 15 years, we have been participating in various art fairs and cultural events, like the Havana Biennale, which we participated in, the 13th, and then the 59th annual Venice Biennale, which we participated in 2022. And the Biennale, the Venice Biennale opportunity came by way of participating in an art fair during Art Basel in Miami.
Funny how all this connects.
The visibility that one gains and contacts that you make through fair participation allows, again, access to collectors, of course, but then institutions and curators, and then also the opportunity to potentially collaborate with other gallerists, so that we capitalize on our financial means and pull those funds together so that we can create opportunities to support and sustain one another's practices.
I love it. It's like finding professional kindred, really, which is beautiful. Thank you. Right, so I guess I'm now going to look at what kind of strategies do you think could be employed, or different ways of framing the conversation so that we think less about the limitations of working in the Caribbean or being from the Caribbean or being from marginalized groups, being part of the Black diaspora, everything that everybody faces? How can we kind of shift the conversation? Because this is obviously something you have to deal with when you're dealing with clients, right? How do we shift that conversation from the limitations to what is, I suppose, the benefits of working in such specific ways or with such specific groups of people? You know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes people think that the sort of narrowing down and like finding a niche in something limits you, but I feel like it just helps you kind of expand through a very particular lens, right? So it's just, I guess, how do you expand that? How do you work against the idea that you're working against everything, you know? Yeah.
I think it's just truly believing in the work that you're doing, and being flexible enough to see the ways in which the model works for you, but disregarding all of the ways it doesn't.
The translation that has to happen in the Caribbean, right?
Yeah, and I think sometimes we don't own so much the right to opacity. We don't own, you know, the complications. We don't own the distance. I think sometimes we're a little too generous. We want to extend so much, and
I know.
You know, and I think sometimes it's okay to have people come to you
and not understand you.
It's okay to be flat-footed. It's okay to the work is what the work is, and I think sometimes
I like that.
when you become insecure about the things that make you Caribbean, the things that are intrinsically us, you operate from that place of insecurity, and then you don't allow the beautiful like morphing and transforming and natural ways in which our spaces can actually progress to happen. You try to like fit it into the mold and the box. When
and insecurity, right?
Yeah, when nothing really actually fits into that mold and the box.
And also, do you want to go in the box?
I don't think so.
Great.
So, so I think that's how we do it. You just own who you are, own who we are, own what we have, because it's beautiful.
It's a strength in itself rather than
it is
the limitation
it is
it's
the
perceived
strength.
at.
It is the strength. And once you're confident in that, I think it will change.
I feel that. Thank you. For you?
Well, for me, I think it's important that we shift the cultural narrative to one that, again, is broader, and that we highlight and celebrate the uniqueness and richness of the Caribbean culture. And part of that, which has been critical, again, in my practice, is scholarship.
Yep.
You know, looking to the scholars to write about, put the work into whatever context, cultural, historical, social, about identity, having that scholarship as that brings weight,
right?
And you know, and it is something that is important for me to be able to present to an institution who may be considering the acquisition of this work by a particular artist. So scholarship is really key, so that we understand that the work is not just art for art's sake,
right?
You know, that it is being written about, it's being studied, it's being
rigor.
contextualized.
Because I think that is the thing, is just like there sometimes is this assumption from people that because we're a small place or a small region, that there must be small thinking, and it belies the entire history of like intellectual thought that comes out of the Caribbean, for one. But like, it's just, again, it's the stereotypes I think that we put in place, right? Obviously for tourism that we have to like deal with, but being able to have that space where it's just like, no, by the way, like this is the academic rigor that you're looking for, and this is here, and this is inherently part of this work, but you're welcome. Here's a translation. You know what I mean? Like that's what it feels like. It's like I'm inviting you in, but you're gonna do the work to meet me there, which I think is important. Like that seems to be like the theme that's coming up anyway. So.
And I also wanted to add, if I may, that
please.
it is important for artists to write about themselves.
Absolutely.
And then for the scholars to take that and translate it into whatever context it might be. And then that manifests itself in a publication.
Absolutely.
Or catalog or brochure. It doesn't have to be, you know, something grandiose,
Right.
but it must be substantive, and it is imperative that it be done.
Absolutely. Could not agree more.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I agree with everything you're saying, and I was actually thinking that not only you have to be proud that we are Caribbean, not as a limitation, but like taking from our perspective and defend it like it's our life, and we should be proud and not being like we have, not marking the bad things, but just realizing all the good things we have. And also all the theoretical part, the scholar part is very important. Basically because we have a lot of people writing about the Caribbean from different perspective. Some of them are writing about the Caribbean outside of the Caribbean. That is not necessarily bad.
No, but not necessarily good.
But not necessarily good, because there are a lot of people writing about the Caribbean in the Caribbean, actually, with new concepts, with new perspective, with new values that are not necessarily the ones that everybody is looking at or reading.
Or that they expect.
Exactly. So one thing is that the scholars in the Caribbean has to be, the way of learning about the Caribbean, but also the way of learning about the global issues, because it's not only what I was saying, not looking at the Caribbean as a limitation, but as a reflection of the world too. And the other thing about the artist is very important. It's, it's very, in Cuba, for example, they are always, almost all the time, talking about the same artists that are already established.
Right.
So about young artists, about middle-aged artists, there's
emerging,
not enough information, and that is very, very bad. Because then you have like this idea of maybe the art from the 90s.
Right.
But then, it's been like 3 decades since that time. So we need like...
A lot has happened.
Yeah, exactly. So there are always something new to write about. There is something new to investigate, to write, to talk. And that is one of the shifting points of that. And also just, don't be afraid of just writing in a plain language, let's say. So people have to be like curious and interested about reading about their culture. So they can't be afraid of this, this article is gonna be like too tough for me to read, or it's gonna be too complicated to understand. No, it's the completely opposite, because that's the people you have. So that people has to understand you and really like share that feeling with you. So that's one of the important things too.
Absolutely. I feel like, again, there's something in this about how I think generally, like a lot of artists, perhaps elsewhere, people who are used to having the dominant narrative, it's important for their reading of their own work to not be the only reading, and that's cool. But I think for people who have had their narrative handed to them and regurgitated to them and sort of warped in the way that we have in the Caribbean as people from the Black diaspora, it's important for us to take our narrative in our own hands this way. Like, this is basically what I'm hearing from all of you, and I also completely agree. And I think there's something kind of brilliant and beautiful about speaking and forming your sense of identity for yourself and for others like you. There's something just... It's an act of love, you know what I mean? I think that there's a lot of love that goes into this kind of work, even though it has to contend with, all the isms and all the things that we're like dealing with in the world, and just the logistics of shipping. but like at the end of the day, like there's a heart-centeredness in it, and I think that's why all of you are here, is because you care, you know what I mean? And I think the care is like one of the things that's like the big strengths of being part of the Caribbean diaspora and the Black diaspora, is just you can't forget or deny just how much like we're all in this together, and we feel a sense of kinship in that way. So thank you. All right, I think I'm going to do one last question. What specific support do you think that Caribbean artists need from galleries to thrive sort of in this evolving work, and or really, I guess, what specific ways are you offering like ongoing support to your artists? Because, I think all of you have people who essentially have been working with you for a long time, or who I want to say are probably like family in a certain sense. So it's like, how do you maintain those connections? What do you offer them to be able to keep feeling like they can be empowered to do their work?
Yeah. Well, I think it's more like what we were saying, right? You have to be proud of the Caribbean. That's one thing is that galleries have to accept, all the different styles that compose the Caribbean art style, let's say. So that's one thing. And the other thing is just present the artist as, yes, as a Caribbean artist, but also just as, like artists, not being very, let's say, just don't take them very close to low or
Don't like narrow how you view people.
Exactly. Don't put them just in the circle of this is just Caribbean art.
Right.
No, just take them out of that and just put like this global artist that you can feel related to even though you were not born you were not born in the Caribbean. So that's one thing that is important, basically for the for the perspective of seeing an artist that I can interact, that I can connect, even though there is a language barrier sometimes, though there is taste sometimes. So I think that's one of the things. Not putting the the label as Caribbean as something bad or something productive, but just putting as this is a complementary.
Right. This is part of this person.
Exactly.
This is not the entirety of this person's identity.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think that's one thing is important. Yeah.
Letting artists be people, whole people.
Exactly.
Amazing how that's a novel concept for a lot of people, but thank you. That's real because we don't get enough of it. We don't. Thank you.
Exactly.
And y'all too?
I think at the foundation of our gallery practice is honesty and communication. And I think that's the best that we can offer artists.
I think that's also a huge deal, given what a lot of us deal with in the art world and all the horror stories that we're hearing or have personally. So,
that allows us to listen, hear and respond. It also allows us to set expectations for them and what they can expect from us, and to work equitably once again with everyone, and to allow each artist to evolve at their own pace as well. I think we also offer them space to experiment, so we're not like so tied to having one kind of work from them.
Right.
We're like whatever
or collectors
you do.
asking for a particular aesthetic in their work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So whatever you do, we think is well done, and we will champion it. And that's the position that we take.
That's good.
Yeah. And I think through just honesty and communication, we've been able to be sustainable so far. And also I think respect of their practices as well. We truly respect each other's practice. We go to great lengths to learn about it, to study it, to when we share it, to not impose our own thoughts, but to lead with the artist's intention, the artist's heart first, and then our love for it. We don't work with anybody that we don't love, deeply.
I feel like that is a basic, and it should be a basic, but it's just really not. You know what I mean? It's like, no, why would not work with people who empower you and let you empower them?
Yeah,
it's supposed to be a relationship, you know?
Yes, and we also understand that it is still intrinsically a business practice.
Oh, yeah.
So we respect them as, business partners within the work as well. So that's what we do.
And you do it well.
So for me, I'm sure that part of the gallery's longevity and success and partnerships with the artists is our onboarding process. We represent artists from emerging to mid-career to more prominent, and the more prominent artists are those that basically we've taken on at an either emerging or mid-career stage and shepherd them through to the level of prominence.
I love it.
We believe in transparency, which I know is key. And during our onboarding process, there is a conversation that takes place with the artist where we ask, and it's very intentional, about what their goals are. And it helps us to assess early on whether we as a gallery are in a position to help them achieve those goals, or if they might be better served by being represented by someone else. And those goals may shift as the career shifts and they go from one arc to the next.
That makes sense.
And so we do take time to reassess those goals, and it's a joyous moment when we can check those off.
I love it.
In terms of ones that we've achieved. The sales, of course, acquisitions are what sustains the gallery.
Absolutely.
And 95%, maybe more, of our artists, their practice is what they do full time. So we are working really hard on their behalf, knowing that that is what sustains them and their families, and that that income stream is critical to their existence. So that means that we have to foster relationships with institutions and curators.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, museum exhibitions may not result in a sale or an acquisition by the institution, but certainly that visibility,
Right.
strengthening the resume is critical to gaining the attention of maybe and I hate to use the word major collectors, but,
No, but I
there
get
are
it.
collectors who are as influential in their passion to build a collection as artists become very prominent as well. So it's just a reality of the art market.
Makes
So
sense.
just, my background is in business, and I have curatorial training at the Maryland Institute College of Art. So I combined those skills in terms of
Expertly.
my business acumen and studying the market, trying as best I can to stay abreast of it because it ebbs and flows just like any other business.
Yep. A living, breathing thing.
Yes. But, and then being very mindful of what it is that the artist wishes to achieve and having them really guide us through that process. And then we are their support mechanism, their infrastructure by which that foundation is built.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you again for just speaking. I'm going to just open up for questions now if anybody has any questions. Yeah? Can I get someone to pass this? I could pass it. I come in.
Thank you. So I have a question. The panel has talked a lot about how their gallery practices have shifted community and shifted artists, and how rewarding it's been for you to engage with those changes. And I was just curious about how you feel the work that you're doing and some of the shifts that you're seeing in parallel spaces in the community, how you feel that work is shifting collectors and shifting collectorship, and what ideas and practices around collectorship look like and for you. Yeah.
I think in our local context, in the Bahamas, I've seen a shift in collectors buying because they really like the work. I was very fortunate to be in a time where people would have conversations just about the work itself, and they would buy from that place of love. But now the conversation has shifted to that love being coupled with kind of more like investment thinking and collection building thinking. So they're coming in with wanting strategy for their collections. They really want to know more about the artists from a strategic perspective. And I think that's good in the long term to have a balance of things. But I think too, when the pendulum swings too far that way, you have to also be discerning and protective of your artists as well. So that's what I've seen in the collector practice, and also even outside of the Bahamas as well. There are persons that we've seen look at artists. They come back. We may exhibit an artist at an art fair last year, and then they're going to come back to us and be like, okay, what is that artist doing? And they're priming themselves to buy through researching, and they're coming with their own level of research about the artist because they see it as an investment in the artist's practice. We've had people as well collect with the intention of donating the work in the future, which I think is a really good practice. So where in my own selling process, I've had more conversations with just the love of the work, the love of the technique. Now I'm having more conversations and relationship building exercises with collectors just as much as with artists. So it's two streams of people that you have to have tender, honest, and equitable and empathetic conversations and relationships with?
Yes, so all of those things. I think some of the most rewarding experiences I've had with collectors and being in the business for over 30 years is this shift of, primarily I represent African American artists. They make the majority of my roster. And having African Americans embrace the culture and buying the work with the understanding that it's part of our cultural capital, and they are taking an active role in preserving that culture, surrounding themselves with the imagery and history that represents and celebrates who they are. So that's been one aspect of it. I do have the other, and is that in the United States at least, there has been this revelation within probably it's less than 10 years, that public institutions that received funding had failed historically because there was a system of systemic racism, and they did not acquire the works of Black and brown individuals. The work was seen as inferior representation of art, and therefore not worthy of being acquired by those institutions. They also failed in their ability to fund the acquisitions and also fund opportunities for artists, like grants for artists to produce work. So with the revelation came the effort, diversity, equity, and inclusion, to acquire the works of Black and brown artists and bring them into those institutions, so that became part of a broader conversation about at least America's history. And now there is a focus, which is really beautiful, to see that the Caribbean is now being looked at, and that's where Morel and Fabiola are now being able to take advantage of that. Another aspect is, as you beautifully stated, Jodi, is that I do have a lot of conversations with my clients, many of which are New York, like Wall Street folks, and they really just want to know what they should invest in. It's part of their investment portfolio. So we have those conversations as well. You meet people where they are, and that's a valid strategy. And then we also talk about philanthropy and stewardship and what will become of this collection. You know, is it strictly going to be left for their family members? Will they be donating the art? Are they willing to loan it to an institution for an exhibition? Because those are all things that are so important, because they're directly tied back to the artist. So those are kind of the shifts that I've been seeing and been participating in as it comes to the art.
Yeah, well, in our case, I think one of the shifts is that you get to see more Caribbean artists, not only in Caribbean galleries outside of the Caribbean area, but just in international galleries, in international fairs, in biennials. So that's one thing that is important too. So people are just like understanding the capacity of the artist for being an artist, not only because of their style, of their theme, or their significance. So that's one important thing too, that collectors are not only interested in, but just that Caribbean artists are being part of other communities and other galleries all around the world. You don't necessarily have to go to the Caribbean to buy a piece of art from the Caribbean artists. It's spread around the world, and that's something that I think it reflects that change of mind in the people.
Do we have any more questions from anyone? If not, that's okay. You're allowed. Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you as well for joining us. This is a really, really rich discussion. And I mean, this is like not my usual forte. I feel like I learned a lot. Very selfishly, I'm really glad about that. So thank you. Appreciate it very much. And thank you all for showing up.
Thank you. That was a great question, by the way.
It was. Thank you, Matt. Just saying.
Thank you.